Hello and welcome to episode 155 of the premier Nintendo podcast on all the internet, Super Switch Headz. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us this evening. We got WeSkillNow. Mr. Brian is on the show. How's it going, WeSkill?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Very good. Yeah, very excited to talk to you. For those not in the know, WeSkillNow is a video editor on YouTube, and he runs Grand Pooh Bear's YouTube channel. We've been talking for a while. Glad to finally have you on today's episode.
I'm honored to be here.
Very good.
WeSkillNow, we have you on to talk about F-Zero. This is our chance. We decided to take this week as an opportunity to discuss the F-Zero franchise, since Nintendo has kind of forgotten about it seemingly. But this week it was kind of in the news with it F-Zero X releasing for the NSO, the N64 app. So this is our chance to kind of just give a big overview of that franchise and what we like about it.
And it's about damn time.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll make some good jokes. But we got a lot of other news to go over as well. There was a Sony State of Play, as they call them. There was some news about Super Nintendo World, the US one opening. Big news.
Lots of website news.
Lots of website news this week. But first, before we talk about any of that, how's everybody doing right now? David, how was your week?
It's been pretty good. I've been, I don't know. I actually went downtown a little bit during South by Southwest. That's like kicked off down here in Austin. I wasn't doing any like South by stuff, but just kind of happened to be in the area. And that's kind of always a trip, whenever that's going down. But yeah, had a pretty good time. Saw some decent shows this week. I did, real quick, going to use this opportunity. WeSkillNow, I wanted to give you a compliment because...
Ooh, David, I'm ready. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Because one of the most riveting pieces of media that I've watched over the pandemic is Grand Pooh Bear's 1000 No Skip Challenge. You know what I mean? And it's like...
Yes.
And that's has to be like so much... Because for those not in the know... Grand Pooh Bear plays a lot of, or he used to, and he doesn't do it so much anymore, played a ton of Mario Maker 2, right? And one of the best things that he's done, in my opinion, is basically doing expert mode, 1000 levels straight through, no skip. And which you edited all of that, I imagine, right? From his Twitch streams?
I did. Well, I had a couple of guest editors here and there, I'll admit, by the end. But, you know, it was like... episode 140 at that point or something.
Yeah. So
I did the
bulk
already
established.
Yeah,
they're just copying your work at that point. Yeah.
So David did approach me at one point because he was a fan of this, in the grand scheme of things, somewhat unremarkable series. But it's a man sitting down to play Super Mario Maker 2 expert mode. His goal was to beat 1,000 levels in a row without losing all of the lives. Okay, so it's honestly quite difficult, and it maybe doesn't seem that way when you're watching it. But then when you pick the controller up yourself, it's like, actually, I can only beat like 2 of these levels.
I can't.
I think my high score is like 9, and that's with skips.
Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
I mean, with that exposition and how you explained it, you're gonna fit in well here. So
exactly.
I was like, yeah, that's how we talk too.
Yeah. No, but it was. I just wanted to say I love that series. I was like, it was more like enthralling than it had any right to be, right? Like as you just said, and so it just came down to I feel like a lot of like how it was cut and like the drama was accentuated. And shit like that. Yeah. So from one editor to another, just wanted to give you a shout out there.
I hugely appreciate that because you know your name. You're the one that approached me, correct? You know,
I think so.
You showed up in my Twitter DMs, and suddenly I was bragging to my wife. I was like, "Hey, this guy sent me a message," and all of a sudden, I'm down the rabbit hole of watching all of your work. And
hell yeah!
I do have to say, my wife and I are just totally in love with Call Me Brother.
Oh, for real?
I do love that movie.
I'm glad you like
it. In a way that I would like never admit to my in-laws or something. Like, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's not. It's a family film, but it's not really a family film.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
David, how do you feel? How do you feel right now after receiving such a genuine compliment?
Well, I feel even because we've it's a soul for a soul, as it were. Yeah. Very good. But otherwise, how was y'all's week? You guys have a good week?
Yeah, I've pretty chill. My partner was out of town, so I ate a lot of snacks, as you do. And then I saw the Batman.
Very
like
good.
A 10 a.m. showing, which is maybe a great time to watch.
It's not the time to watch Batman.
It was dark. That movie's so dark. Why is it so dark?
Was that one of those moments where you come out of the theater and you're like, ah,
yes,
like
yes,
to the light of
I
day.
bet.
Yeah. I walked out of the theater. I was like, I don't have my sunglasses.
Yeah, very good.
Other than that,
Good movie.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. I liked it.
I've been sick and I'm still a little residually sick, but
Bummer.
So I've kind of had a bummer of a weekend, and I've just been grumpy and sleeping and all that kind of stuff. So I actually today, like late afternoon, started to feel like a little better. So
Let's go.
I think I'm on the upswing. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
How about you, WeSkillNow? How's your week been?
Yeah, sure. My week looks a lot like the other weeks that I have. I spend a lot of time in this room, and honestly, I have a good time with it. I really am always editing, though. So
Yeah.
that's really how my week was. I'm right here. You're looking at it.
Yeah. This room will probably one day be my coffin. That's what I'm in here all the fucking time.
That's a lot of room for a coffin.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
You need all that? Or?
I went down a rabbit hole today. Okay, I promise we'll move on after this.
Yeah.
I went down a YouTube rabbit hole today of like tiny homes and like minuscule like Tokyo apartments. And so now I'm actually feeling like pretty good about my living space.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we should move on. Last week we did an episode on triangle strategy. And as per usual, lots of great discussion in our Discord server. So go check that out. In particular, some good Star Trek discussion, because that came up somehow on that episode.
Yeah.
And from like Carusetta and others.
Sorry.
Also some good.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I think that's why it came up. And then some good God of War casting suggestions as well.
Oh, yeah.
Various,
That's right.
various folks. And then the huge 27 agreed with me that triangle strategy felt like a breath of fresh air after Shin Megami Tensei 5. So it wasn't just me. That's good to know.
I've heard that, like, not just from you and Jay, but from a lot of people too. They're like, oh my God, just any JRPG feels like easy mode. Like after fucking Shin Megami Tensei 5.
And then Swampy Southpaw related to Matthew's ex-religious posts that Matthew's been sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah. We'll get that documentary at some point.
So yeah, we do love to hear from our listeners and viewers. So do reach out to us, and we also appreciate, all the reviews and sharings of podcasts on platforms like Reddit and that kind of thing. And then also please do like and subscribe on YouTube. That always helps as well.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Can I just say, if you leave a comment on YouTube, I think it has 100% chance of making it on the next episode. 100%.
Yeah. At this point, yeah.
Now for sure it does now.
Yeah. We'll start shouting out comments on Grand Pooh Bear's videos.
Well, with that, we'll get into this week's gaming and Nintendo, specifically news and rumors. Unfortunately, just like many of the last few weeks, we're starting off on a little bit of a somber note due to the war that is happening in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. And I think, probably the right move here. Nintendo has delayed the release of Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, which was supposed to come out in early April.
Supposed to come out November of last year, right?
Well, that's
Originally.
right. This is another second delay.
Yeah.
This time for content.
So, Advance Wars, did that touch your guys' childhood in some way? No?
It was one that always kind of skirted by me, but was a big part of, like, I always wanted to play it, but I never actually did.
So I've got a similar experience to that, but it was always at war with Fire Emblem, particularly Sacred Stones. And I've always heard those were at war with each other. Yeah. I never touched Advance Wars myself, but I got the feeling that it had the bigger audience. I'm not really sure, though.
I mean, it's certainly, like, obviously, I think the first game opens with basically the kind of in-game version of Russia invading another country, right? And so it's like obviously
but
that's
like
gonna,
not Russia, but like different names.
it's like Russia, not Russia. Like it has a different name, but it's like the guy has like
so
the
it's
Russian
like
cap and
particularly
everything.
bad to release at this time.
Exactly. I think they were
Wow,
basically
okay.
like, look, we can't really do this right
Yeah.
now. And in fact, this game series is kind of cursed because Advanced Wars 1 for the Game Boy came out on a little day called September 10th, 2001 in the States. So the next day was obviously 9/11. And so then the release of the game in other territories other than the US was delayed by almost a full year or something like that after that, right? So it's like, it just seems that these always happen to be on like terrible
incredible.
big world events.
They got to stop making this game.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got to stop having wars.
Yeah,
okay.
that's the real solution. Yeah, just cartoon wars with chibi characters.
Yeah, well, I
That's
mean,
what
right? Like if we're gonna have
Yeah.
wars, let's have them in fictional worlds.
Yeah,
Settle
exactly.
it in Smash, as they say.
Yeah. Well, relatedly, itch.io, as they have done in the past, are doing just this huge bundle of games, and as well as a few assets that you can buy. I think it's like 990 something games, something like almost 1,000 games, or almost 1,000 pieces of media that you can purchase for. I think the minimum is $10.
Mhm.
So they're trying to raise, I believe, like $6 million, and they're pretty close to that goal. So go check that out. It's for I think by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be ending very soon after that. But there's a little bit of time. For folks
For
to
a
check
particular name shout out, I do see Celeste in there.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot of really good games. Celeste,
Tons of
Crosscode,
stuff.
Wandersong, Skatebird. Honestly, we could keep going.
But,
There's like 20. There's like 20 games I've already bought on the Switch, like in this bundle. Yeah.
Matthew will now list all 990.
toy tennis, toy boxing. Chess, piano. Okay, a short hike. Baba Is You.
I mean, those are great
super
games.
hot.
Yeah.
So many games. Really, it's so much.
An easy way as a gamer to support a good cause.
Real quick, I do want to point out too. There's a game by Jan Willem, who used to be one of the members of Vlambeer before they were finished, and he put out a game called Tennis, Tennes. Don't sleep on that one. That's like a great little couch multiplayer game that I've put like probably 30 hours into. Is a little free thing.
That's also helpful, David, because I have purchased this. So like, tips to be tips.
Yeah, maybe
if listeners,
you're never going to get through all these. Yeah,
I mean, there's 1,000 of them, but it's like. But they've done this before. They did the racial justice bundle. They did the Palestinian support bundle as well. And a lot of if you've bought into any of those bundles, you've probably gotten a lot of these games already. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, and they're all DRM free on PC.
At the end of the day, it's not about getting 1,000 cheap games for yourself. It's for the fundraiser.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next episode, it'll be ranking all of these games objectively.
Objective.
Man, that would be a project.
Moving on, like we joked about, there is a 35th anniversary Final Fantasy website that has popped up within the last week with like a message from one of the producers, and that's pretty much it, right? Like I guess maybe since something else we're going to talk about, maybe there's like a little bit more information since the State of Play with like Strangers of Paradise having a demo or something, but I think that's pretty much it. It just kind of says that this year is the 35th anniversary, and I guess it's technically late in the year, so December. So maybe this website will continue to evolve over the year. Who knows? Are we going to get the Pixel remasters maybe on Switch?
Yeah, I'd love a fucking collection on consoles, right?
Yeah.
I've got really something for this one. So you scroll down on that website and it lists a couple of Final Fantasy games that are coming out here.
Yeah.
Chocobo Grand Prix, is that one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I tweeted about this because I was watching the YouTube Nintendo Direct. It was like 2 directs ago that was announced.
Yeah.
The auto-generated captions were just like magical on this one. And I don't know how to send you this picture, but there's this picture of an adorable chocobo in roller skates, And the words were like, race has familiar Final Fantasy characters like Chocobo. And then the text just says, racist familiar Final Fantasy characters like Chocobo. It's like, puts this little bird in a new light. Oh,
yeah.
Chocobos, they're problematic.
Apparently, like, this game is like got major problems right now too. One of the biggest posts on the Nintendo Switch subreddit right now is like, do not buy this game for your children because it has like such intense microtransactions and they make it so easy to buy all this shit that it's like your kid will probably buy stuff without even realizing.
Just buy
because that's the free one, right?
Well, no, even in the $50 version, it's like filled with microtransactions. So it's like, so it's. I mean, I hear it's like a pretty fun game with some problems, but it's got like battle passes and stuff, even in a $50 game. So probably avoid that.
Yeah, there's the Chocobo GP or whatever, and then Chocobo GP Lite, which is the free version. That
is that also on Switch, the free version?
I presume so, but I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Anyway.
Man, nothing says happy birthday like a website.
and I think that it's funny that that Nintendo has like made a 35th anniversary a thing.
Yeah,
you know, I think that's basically
so many video games now.
Yeah, I think that's like I think that came out of just like them not having anything because of COVID. They're like, all right, well, let's just say it's Mario's 35th anniversary, I guess, and re-release these games on emulators. And then now everybody's doing 35th anniversary.
35th anniversary, you know, it goes like 10, 35th, 50. Those are the big ones, you know? Like
exactly.
Currently on the Switch, you can do a Monster Hunter Rise trial if you have Nintendo Switch Online. So this is, they do this sort of week-long free trial of games every once in a while now. This is another thing that'll be ending shortly after this podcast comes out, but you'll still have a brief chance if you weren't already aware, if you listen to this on release, to go check that out. See if Monster Hunter Rise is up your alley or not. And know for sure. And then also, by the time this podcast comes out, there will have been, and we'll talk about it next week, a Monster Hunter Rise, the DLC that's coming out later this year, Sunbreak. There's going to be a big event surrounding that we can't talk about because it hasn't happened yet. So we'll talk about it next week, probably.
Gotcha.
Unless it's not worth talking about.
Is anyone here obsessed with Monster Hunter?
I'm not obsessed, but I played some Monster Hunter Rise.
Okay. I can only assume that I would love it, but I've never tried it.
Yeah.
It's got pretty good gameplay. Like the actual gameplay loop is pretty fun. But it has a lot of like menus and text. And so there's that kind of, if you can get over that hurdle, you know what I mean?
My idea of it is it's go on a fantasy realistic hunt with like unique mechanics for each thing and then go craft your awesome armor. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That does sound awesome.
Yeah, it's a nice loop.
Did you play Legends Arceus? Did you play the new Pokemon game?
Not yet.
Yeah. Well, it's really similar to that, like the gameplay loop is anyway.
And the UI and stuff for Legends Arceus is very similar.
The problem with this game for me, I've tried to start many Monster Hunter games, and my problem any game that starts me off with like the big, you're about to learn a thing, and then it's like 5 pages of like small text in a window, and then it's just like box after box after box after box. My eyes glaze over.
It kills
me.
Yeah.
They
it's
throw
so hard for
way
me
too much stuff at you at the beginning.
Yeah. It's like I'd much rather that be doled out kind of like more naturally over the course of a game.
I always
know it's like
find myself skipping everything, doing my best to like figure it out on my own, but then then I quit.
Yeah, I have the same problem with like Xenoblade. That's kind of been a barrier to entry for me.
Excuse me.
So, hey Matt, if you want to come over and narrate all the tutorials to me,
honestly,
I would love to. Yeah, that'd be great.
Honestly, like that's a great way to get into these kind of games is find your friend that's really into them and they will actually help you. And Monster Hunter, that's what happened with me is a couple of people helped me with Monster Hunter. So
and that's where Monster Hunter like really shines. Like you go on a trek with like 4 friends, right?
Yeah, the co-op. Yeah.
So maybe we'll talk about that next week. But one event that did happen this week is the State of Play. So Sony had a March State of Play. And I have to admit that having been sick and and busy and all that. I actually have not watched this one, and I probably will not go back and watch it.
I don't think
at this
you're
point.
missing much.
Yeah, fill me in. I mean, I've read a quick summary and that kind of stuff, but and I've seen there is one little piece of news out of this that I personally am slightly excited for. But guess what it is? I don't know.
The PlayStation logo.
Yes, that's what it is. The X's and O's and triangles. It's such a
my
cool
man just loves
design.
shapes.
But yeah, can anybody who did watch this or was more familiar with it?
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
I've got you covered. I got a couple of
it.
minutes of this. And what I got out of it was bright colors, cool looking graphics, Sony stuff. That's pretty much all I got. I literally don't. Wait. The first thing is a giant portal opens in the sky and a bunch of dinosaurs pour out and people in exoskeleton robots are shooting them. Looks kind of cool, but I'll never play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into that premise.
It really looked cool, I gotta say.
Okay, what if we got mechs, but instead of fighting zombies, which is normal, what if instead they were fighting fucking dinosaurs?
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you,
hordes
the
of them
portal
too, right?
was like high up in the sky, and they're just raining down everywhere. It's really good looking.
Well, I mean, that's cool, right? I mean, I love stuff like that. I think it's just like, I think that Sony has yet to capture whatever Nintendo's doing right in their directs, right? Like they try really hard. Actually, I don't think they try hard at all. But it's like,
problem, right?
I think maybe that's the problem. But it's like, I feel like they haven't found that good balance of holding shit close to their chest versus what they're just going to announce in a blog post or a tweet or whatever, versus like actually giving people what they want in these presentations, right? Because everybody always is like, okay, they're going to show this game or this thing that we've been looking forward to for a long time, and then they kind of don't really. I mean, they showed Ghostwire Tokyo, I think, in this, right? Like it's coming out in like a week or something like that, so we're getting close to that. Nintendo certainly has had 8 years up on PlayStation, like doing these things. So, obviously they're going to be better at it, but
how do you go up against a company that has the characters that you grew up with? This is a Nintendo podcast. We're always going to love the Nintendo Directs more than whatever Sony's putting out. Yeah. Like nothing's recognizable. I've got no nostalgia for dinosaurs. It did look cool though.
I've got nostalgia for dinosaurs.
Well, sorry,
only in a park
with mechs and.
Well, a couple of things that I thought just from reading review or summaries and stuff that seemed interesting or might be noteworthy is the Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy game does have a demo, right out now.
Can someone tell me the appeal of this game?
I don't know.
No, I didn't look at it.
Carosetta in our Discord played it a little bit and posted what their thoughts on it. And I don't have that handy, but it was actually kind of helpful.
But it's like a Soulsy kind of game.
It's like a Dark Souls Final Fantasy.
Ugh.
Sort of.
Did you just describe a game as Dark Soulsy? Because
Soulsy.
Are you like every IGN review for the last decade?
That's how I've heard this game pitched. Yeah.
I think that's what the goal is. But also, Returnal got is gonna get like an expansion that's got co-op in it.
Okay, that's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, and like more content. And then the other thing that's gotten some good press out of this was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection.
The Cowabunga
collection. Konami's putting out there's 11 games in it or 13 or something like that. A bunch of games
somewhere in there. Yeah.
From the NES and arcade and SNES era and Genesis. So that one is the one that piqued my interest.
And it's all cross-platform too. I think it's being released on everything.
Yeah, some of them have online play, like the arcade one and stuff, I think, where you can play online. I don't know if that's cross-platform. Probably not. But so that's cool. I think.
So this includes like the old Pixel TMNT.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like including
NES
like
games,
Game Boy ones.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. This is a great move to put this out the same year as Shredder's Revenge, obviously. I was a Power Rangers kid, so I was never like really a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guy, but it's a very smart move to release this pack now with such a storied history of Turtles games up to this point, when you've got a game that is relying so heavily on nostalgia and is like, it's not the TMNT. It's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? It's like the versions from the cartoons in the 90s, right? So it's a good call to do this. And it looks like a really good collection too. I'll always try to support good retro collections. I think it's a great thing.
So there's a modder who's been working on adding rollback netcode into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And apparently they have an update there. They go by the handle of D-Shad or D-Shade or something like that. And apparently they've been working on this for a while, but they were working on it in Switch emulation, as I understand it, right? But they've kind of moved on to working on making some sort of mod that can work on anything running Smash Ultimate. And I don't understand how that works. Some sort of plugin thing or something. That's pretty cool. But apparently they've shown off some new footage of that. And maybe it's not ready for them to like share, but
it's like working on hardware, like on a Switch proper, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they've got, it's not too far reaching at this point. I do have to tell you, one of my major backgrounds is competitive Smash Bros.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it's particularly melee based.
Okay.
As I said before, total GameCube.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So I'm not super into the Ultimate scene, but I do hear about it from time to time, and no one's talking about this. So it hasn't reached very far yet, and no one's using it.
Right.
But I don't know if you guys are aware that Melee has rollback.
Oh yeah,
everyone's aware of that.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I was playing Slippy earlier today.
Literally, my fucking mom knows about Slippy.
Just casually over Thanksgiving dinner, you know.
It's the one thing.
Well, I'm sure your mom
family
knows. You're probably telling her.
No, but that's great, right?
Yeah,
and I mean, like,
if you guys are playing Slippy, we could hit that.
not quite yet. My old gaming PC is not where it needs to be at the moment. But I mean, it could probably play GameCube games. But anyway, this is interesting. I don't know that this is ever going to turn into anything. It's great that it exists. I mean, like, obviously rollback netcode would be a vast improvement over what the main problem with Super Smash Brothers is, which is its online play with Ultimate.
And ultimately, like, famously has some of the worst latency in all of fighting games in the whole FGC.
I love Smash Ultimate. It is my favorite Smash game, but I just can't play it online. It's the latency, right? It's
all I do. All I do is play it online, but it would be great if it was better.
yeah, for sure. And I'm not trying to discount anybody who loves it, obviously, and it's still very popular. But I think, like, this happened with Street Fighter, right? Like, there were kind of like fan mods. That they released to add rollback netcode, and it got to a point where it fractured the player base so much, where half of them were playing this unofficial rollback, and then half of them were doing the vanilla game, to where they kind of had no choice but to include rollback in future releases. No, I don't think that Nintendo's going to do that.
Nintendo would never play ball with that.
Yeah. But it's like, this at least puts the pressure on a little bit, right? And I hope that this does improve and does get released to the masses, at least for people who have modded Switches.
The success of this mod relies on Nintendo never hearing about it.
That's probably true. Yeah. You got a good point there.
From this modder's Twitter page, he says, the video is a technical proof of concept. I don't know if it will be fully working in the end. I'm just making some assumptions, doing my best to transform those to facts.
So not too far along yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically we'll all be playing Smash Ultimate with rollback on our Steam Decks next week. When I get mine next week, right?
Q2.
Well, another thing we won't be doing just yet, but maybe in the near future, is going to Super Nintendo World in the US, in the Hollywood park. They have announced that it will be opening next year, 2023. I don't believe we have any specific beyond that, so it could be as early as beginning of 2023, but more likely, I'm guessing, later in the year, based on them saying that.
It's pretty far along. I mean, I remember like 2 years ago, somebody shared like photos in our Discord of like it being built.
Cool.
Yeah,
so I imagine it's not too far along.
This of all news this week somehow tickled my interest, where I went a little bit deep on this subject. And so Super Nintendo World in Hollywood, it's also coming to Orlando. but much later. But I think the interesting thing about this is it's opening soon, like next year. They showed some drone footage, and it's going to be a 3-story building of like where Mario Kart will be. But it's going to be a much smaller, plot of the Mushroom Kingdom when compared to like Japan.
Right.
So just the way that Universal Studios.
So it's not going to be like
Hollywood's laid
identical
out.
to the Japanese Universal one,
or as big theoretically as the Orlando one will be.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So probably
Very interesting.
Orlando will maybe be much later. It's not coming out to like they're doing the whole Epic Universe thing. Probably not for another 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Disneyland versus Disney World is kind of the same way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously on a bigger scale, but yeah.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is like for the Mario Kart ride, it might be you might enter at like the 3rd floor and then you like take the ride down and exit on the ground level.
Do you think you'll be able to like go upside down like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Yeah.
On the walls? Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be whatever gimmick Mario Kart 9
Yeah,
is.
and actually underwater too, and you have to hold your breath.
There's no hazards there. Sign the waiver.
Yeah, exactly.
But we made a joke on the Discord, like, let's go. Like, I will straight up organize a trip for us. Let's
I'm
go.
down, dude.
That's not a joke then. Yeah. Okay.
So you
I'm
have to
down,
live vlog that at that point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll do a live streamed episode from the park on the Yoshi ride. No, yeah, I'm super pumped. Yeah, it's the chillest
lazy
ride
river.
they got. Yeah, it's the one with probably the best internet connection. But no, man. I mean, I'll go on a trip with y'all to the Japanese one. Let's fucking do it. I don't give a shit.
Ooh.
I've been
All
saving
right.
up money for a Japanese trip. I'm ready to go.
Well, later this year, and by later I mean significantly later, this just got announced, but in August, there's going to be a Kirby music festival, is what they're calling it. The Kirby 30th anniversary music festival is going to be happening in August, and they're going to be live streaming it for free viewing around the world on August 11th. So as I think the tweet said, or one of them was like, mark your calendar. For August 11th, if you're into Kirby music and they have a really cute picture of Kirby and like King Dedede and Meta Knight like in a band on the Twitter. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, Dedede's playing drums.
Yeah. That's what I would expect.
Yeah.
But it's just his belly.
Look, if the lineup for the Kirby Festival isn't as big as the When We Were Young Festival, I'm not interested.
Don't worry, Simple Plan will be at the Kirby Festival.
I'm down. Let's go.
Sold.
I could keep going.
Yeah, I felt like there was
Yeah.
another joke there. We're already going long.
Thrice. Coheed
Blink
and Cambria.
182.
All right. Well, our last bit of news, which leads us into our main segment, which I kind of already said, but F-Zero X is now out on the Switch Online expansion pack. So if you have the NSO expansion pack with the Nintendo 64 app, you can now play F-Zero X. And we're going to talk all about it in a little bit, but is there any comments related to this release anybody wants to get in before we take our break?
I mean, main thing for me is this is the game that I've wanted to come out of all the N64 games, right? Like they've been doing this monthly thing, and I'm like, I know this game is going to hold up. Like out of N64 games famously don't age very well, right? But this game really, really does, right? And so I've been dying for this one to come to the Switch, and I'm really glad that this came this month instead of Kirby 64. I feel like that would have been the obvious pick with the new Kirby coming out, right? And it still being a 2D game. But I'm really glad that they did this instead to have a little bit of variety. I was like a kid on Christmas. I've been playing F-Zero all weekend.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we'll dig into F-Zero X specifically a little bit more, but we're also going to mainly be talking or just kind of generally be talking about F-Zero as a franchise and the series of games and what we might want to see in a new one and all that kind of stuff after this break. All right, this week we are talking about F-Zero with F-Zero X coming onto the Switch. We thought this was a fine time to talk about the series of F-Zero games that have come out on Nintendo consoles and handhelds since 1990. Surprisingly, there's more than I thought there was. Like, I was not aware of all these GBA games in particular, I guess. We'll get into that maybe in a little bit. But so I guess, well, I mean, I don't know. How do y'all want to start with this? We want to just kind of talk about the history of the franchise and the first game release and that kind of thing? Or do we want to talk a big picture about what F-Zero is, maybe?
Yeah, maybe we could like jump off with like the game that just came out too.
Okay.
You know, like
Sure.
You know, F-Zero
David,
X.
it sounds like you want to talk about F-Zero X. Really
I
bad.
do.
And I want to hear what you're going to say about F-Zero X.
Well, I mean, okay. I'll just say, first of all,
wait, David. Is this one of those things where you like, it was Christmas morning, you unwrapped it, boom, F-Zero X, it changed your life forever?
kind of. I mean, it wasn't, I'll say this. When I was a kid, I really resented racing games. And a big reason why I resented them so much was the first N64 game that I owned was Cruisin' USA. And I was like, this game's boring, even though now I love that game. But like, and I liked it back then because it was the only N64 game I had. I was forced to like it, right? But I was like, racing games aren't really for me. I like platformers and Mario games and blah, 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 right? So I always like Mario Kart because it's fun and it's got items and it's kind of battling. But like, the only real like just racing game that ever really held my attention was F-Zero X, right, for the N64. And if you haven't played this game and you've never played a game in the F-Zero series before, I really, really recommend. And if you have the expansion pack on Switch Online, I really recommend you check this game out. It's a little weird to control at first, right? And it's not like Mario Kart, right? The drifting mechanics are a little bit different, but even if you're playing on like the beginner modes or even the normal modes, you don't really have to drift. And it's like such a fucking fun game to play. And it's just like, it basically made me appreciate racing games as a whole.
Sure.
And I just think the game has aged, I was talking about this before the break, but it's aged remarkably well. F-Zero X on the N64 is one of the only games to ever hit 60 frames per second. And it was kind of designed around that, the graphics are a little bit more like minimalistic. There's not like a ton of textures everywhere. The backgrounds like have a lot of fog and all this kind of shit. It's like kind of hard to see way into the distance or whatever, but that's because it was like the first, I think it was the first ever racing game to hit 60 frames per second and hold that. Right. And it's got like, 30 racers in every track whenever you're playing single player.
So to make you appreciate a racing game, you needed a bold company to come in and give you these bright colored cars and throw you into space. Well, I guess the SNES one already existed.
Yeah.
So the IP one, like the IP wasn't new, but
right. I mean, it was like, it's always been like, it's been a franchise that at least it's not really anymore, but that Nintendo used to kind of like showcase their new hardware, right?
Okay.
And like the new tricks that they could do. And we'll get back into it. And we can still go sequentially here, but I just wanted to say like, if you're ever going to play a first F-Zero game,
it's a good one.
F-Zero X is a good first one to play. Yeah.
I do think maybe we should mention, most people listening to this might be familiar with F-Zero, but you might be a Nintendo fan and never have really dug into F-Zero.
Totally.
Because of the nature of it being kind of a smaller franchise, more niche and all that. But so real briefly, it's sort of a sci-fi futuristic racing game where, the whole idea is super fast speeds, right? Like that feels like you're racing really fast, and also sort of that dangerous element because and difficult too a little bit. They're all kind of difficult. So you if you take too much damage, you explode. And then,
or if you fly off the map at super high speeds, you retire.
There's no latitude to bring you back up.
Exactly.
I'll say it's probably the best example of a franchise that has the most famous quote from it not being from the game itself.
Show me
Falcon.
I'd go Falcon Punch.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that more later too. I'm sure. But so I guess to then start with the history of it, like you said there, David, F-Zero was a launch game, right? For the SNES, I believe.
For the Super Nintendo, right.
I'm kind of going off of my memory on that one. But it was one of the, handful of games that you could get at launch, at least in the States. And yeah, I have the fondest memories of that one. And I spent the most time on the original F-Zero and really loved that game as a kid. But it's hard. And I think, like you said, if you were going to start with one, I wouldn't really recommend starting with that one because the difficulty is there. And I feel like F-Zero X really did kind of like hit it. You know what I mean? Like it's got the same vibes, but it's more fun as well as still challenging,
Right. And it's, and it being brought into the third dimension really added a lot. But let's talk more about the original F-Zero for the Super Nintendo. Sure. Like the real star of the show on the original F-Zero was the Mode 7 graphics that Nintendo used in a lot of Super Nintendo games. That was kind of like their big, like basically scalable sprites, right? Was kind of what the technology was that the Super Nintendo was able to do that the NES was not.
When you refer to Mode 7, what does that particularly refer to in the SNES F-Zero?
So it gave it that kind of sense of faux 3D, right?
Sure.
And so basically, you would see Mode 7 a lot. Anytime something would be like stretched or brought bigger or smaller, that was a Mode 7 effect. And so basically how they did that in F-Zero was they just took the stages, built them entirely in Mode 7, and then just kind of laid them down. So as you're driving around a giant JPEG, essentially, right?
Just you describing that is so nostalgic. That's that car, vroom, and then you're just going around that thing. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. It was like that and Pilot Wings were like the two big tech demos of Mode 7 whenever this first came out, right? And then it'd be used in lots of other stuff for bearing effect. But that was kind of like the big thing. And that's how they were able to get that sense of speed, right? They weren't racing games up to that point were basically like drawing individual kind of sprites or backgrounds that would then like cycle through. And this was
does Mario Kart fit into this?
Mario Kart was also Mode 7.
I thought so.
They used the same techniques. Yeah.
Did it come out after F-Zero?
Yes, it did. Yeah. Which is one of the major flaws, I think, too, of F-Zero that Mario Kart ended up fixing was the's no multiplayer in the original F-Zero.
Oh,
right?
That's right.
Yeah. It's an entirely single player game. Yeah, exactly. And so that's why. And so I think people were like, this game is awesome. It's really cool. I love the characters. I love the style of the music. But I just want to play with my friends and it's too fast. Right. And so Mario Kart basically like slowed the game down, added more interactive stuff, like items and whatnot, and then added multiplayer, obviously. And that was like the huge selling point of Mario Kart. And that's why it really took off as opposed to F-Zero, I think.
Yeah. And then we talked about this recently on the show, and we can just give it brief lip service here, is that apparently there was going to be a Virtual Boy F-Zero game that was canceled due to the failure of that console. So that would have probably landed as the second F-Zero game, but the actual second F-Zero game is the one we've just been talking about, F-Zero X for the Nintendo 64, which came out in 1998, so 8 years after the first one.
Let's talk about some lore from the F-Zero world. Sure. If I'm living in the F-Zero world, which I do every single day, I wake up.
We're in the universe, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Right? Yeah, we are. We are actually in the universe. The story is a bunch of rich, wealthy merchants got together, wanted more excitement, part of their opulent lifestyle, and created the F-Zero Grand Prix.
And this is in the year like 2,500 something.
You guys, by the way, know more about F-Zero lore than I do.
I love this so far. I need this.
Yes. So this game is light on lore already.
Yeah.
But there's just a little bit.
That's what's weird to me about F-Zero is that it is like there is this lore, and that it's like Captain. Like we'll get into this, but like Captain Falcon's a bounty hunter, but he's a race car. You know what I mean? Like what? And this Matthew and I always tease David because we're like, why don't they make an F-Zero game where he bounty hunts, because that sounds fun. Like where you race in the
does.
car and then you like get somebody.
Take him
but,
out
but
of
David
the car.
hates it. David hates this talk. But like they do have
F-Zero game. He's not driving around really fast.
Well, just give it like a full Grand Theft Auto world.
That would
Yeah,
be the
that's-
Star Fox dinosaur planet. It's the Star Fox Adventures.
Just do it
of
good.
Star Fox. You know?
Just do it good then.
F-Zero
we do-
Adventures.
but yeah, like
F-Zero
I-
Adventure.
but yet there is this like lore. Matthew, I didn't mean to cut you off about.
No, it's okay. Yeah, that's basically it. A bunch of rich people wanted to watch people die or almost die and race to their death. And so as, you know, more people race and they have had these races over and over and over again, I think where F-Zero will land, this is F-Zero Grand Prix is well established as part of this world. It's not the first one. It's somewhere, it's not the last one. It's somewhere in between. But at this point, there are more dangers and more people are dying, and this excites the wealthy merchants.
Right. And it's obviously a play on like Formula One, where instead of F1, it's F-Zero because it's zero gravity, right? Like, that's kind of the whole. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I also think it's like they do all these characters, the original 4 characters from F-Zero, they kind of have these little interesting backstories, you know, from like the manual and stuff. Like there's Dr. Stewart, who's like drives the yellow car.
yellow car.
Yep, the yellow car. And he's a doctor. So we could also have, you know, you hop out of the car, you do some surgeries.
Come on, dude. Come on.
Isn't there some kind of crossover between Dr. Stewart and Star Fox in some way?
Well, F-Zero does have some crossover, at least. In F-Zero X, James McCloud is a character.
It's like his dad or something.
Right, but he's a human in F-Zero.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
you're right.
He's not a fox. And so it's like it's a little weird. I think
It's just a
more
totally
like
separate character.
I think it's more an Easter egg than anything, but it's like in my head canon, all of Nintendo's cosmic universe exists in the same universe, right? It's like Metroid, Star Fox, F-Zero, Kirby,
Mario.
like all that shit like exists in the same universe. It's just in my own head. It's never been made serious, but I think that would be a great way to bring these franchises back. Yeah, I think so too. But I mean, that was the first seeds of that were kind of in F-Zero X with James McCloud being a character. Yeah.
Because you said that game had the 30 characters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got 30.
Okay.
It's got just a little over 30 playable characters and then 30 on track at any time.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you're going to say something, Patrick?
Well, I was just going to say, like, I think that like, it's somewhat a relic of the manual era of like these characters having these backstories.
Totally.
That from the Super Nintendo, but like the other character, one of them's like a hitman, yada yada. It doesn't matter. But like the point is, they kind of have these fleshed out characters. But you hear all those jobs, right? And I think this is something that's true of F-Zero, is that it's kind of more adult stuff. The series itself, like in F-Zero X, for example, there's kind of a big-breasted woman holding up the sign or whatever. I think there's just a little bit of a less family-friendly, a more grown-up, or a more like I'm a cool teen kind of edge to F-Zero than to a lot of other.
Patrick, I see the seeds of what you're saying. It's like, is this a reason that we're not seeing F-Zero
potentially?
Today?
Yeah. I mean,
arguably, right?
I think it has more to do with the success of Mario Kart than it does anything else as to why we don't see more. But
we see Cruise and Blast or whatever.
Yeah, but that's a whole different. That's like an arcade thing, right? I mean.
But what about an F-Zero arcade game? All right.
Well, there was one.
Yeah. Ran on the Triforce system.
Yeah. We'll get to that in just a second. But real quick, I do want to talk about just like the things that I think F-Zero X brought to the table that A, weren't in any other racing games, and B, were series staples going forward, right? I think my favorite thing about F-Zero X as a game, as a racing game in particular, is this risk reward system with the boosting mechanic, right? So basically you have your life meter, your little energy bar that as you smack into other racers or hit the wall or whatever, that'll be continually decreasing as you're taking damage, right? But then starting on lap 2, after you finish your first lap, you get a manual boost that you're able to do. It's not just
so good.
Yeah, it's not just hitting boost pads that are on the floor. You also
Though
can just
there is
boost
that.
whenever you want. Yeah, there's still that, obviously, like in Mario Kart, right?
Mhm.
But in addition to that, you can then just boost whenever you want. And in F-Zero for the Super Nintendo, you had like a certain number of boosts that you could use. It's either per lap or per race or something like that. You have to kind of decide when to use them. What was brilliant about F-Zero X is that they just took boost from your energy. So it became this risk reward of like, okay, yeah, if I boost 4 times in a row right now, I'm going to be able to pass everybody and beat them. But then if I touch the wall once, I'm dead, you know? And so there's kind of like regen, like little pink areas that you can drive through that'll regenerate your energy, which you can, obviously just boost straight through and still regain energy as you're going. But that's like what made the game so compelling to me as a kid, was just being like I could play this level a million different ways, depending on when I want to boost, right? And that just made it like a ton of fun.
You're opening this up to me in a way that I hadn't even realized. That is really, really cool.
Yeah,
I do love that.
Yeah, it was pretty like revolutionary for the time, and I still don't see a lot of games doing it, and I'm like really surprised because it's just such a, I don't know. It's like once you kind of like realize what's going on there, it just becomes so natural feeling, right? And just adds to the excitement of the game on a level that
is
was already
awesome
there.
Risk and reward. I love that.
Yeah,
that's
great
David,
stuff.
I do have to rip your heart out for a second.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've played F-Zero. Okay.
Yeah.
I've played F-Zero SNES. I've played it on GameCube, but I didn't play the N64 one.
It's okay. You've got a great opportunity now.
So my question, mechanically for N64, did N64 also have the kill other people to gain life yourself mechanic?
I don't know that you can steal their life. I don't know that it adds to your energy in F-Zero X.
It's not quite that. Well, in GameCube, and this is the first time we're getting that far down the timeline, but just for a second, you hit X, it's a big side swipe, and it eventually will kill them, but not right away. I think you do need to get like a couple of kills before you actually do get a boost in your own energy. It's not every time you hit them or something like that.
Sure. I mean, that attacking is in this game, right? It doesn't have items like Mario Kart, obviously, but you can kind of like side swipe to the left or to the right using Z or R. Or if you like hold Z and then tap R while you're holding it, you do this like spin attack.
Yeah, that's in GameCube too.
Yeah. And so it's not like, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't add to your energy, but like what it does do is clear out fucking enemies, right? And you've got like a lot of times, especially when you're playing the harder difficulties, as you're getting up to the front, oftentimes it's going to be more beneficial for you to just kill your opponents than to like try to beat them at the end, and especially your rival too. It's like, because there are so many opponents in every single race, and there are 6 races in a Grand Prix as opposed to like 4 with Mario Kart, the like spectrum of points that you can get goes from like 100 to 0, basically from first place to 30th place. So oftentimes you can see who your rival is, who is like kind of higher than you in that list. And so if you just take them out early, then that person's not going to be able to get the 90 points or whatever that they might need to take over at the end of the Grand Prix, right? So it becomes this even more like kind of like, okay, it's not like Mario Kart where you're like, okay, I'm just going to try to get first every single time.
Yeah,
it's like sometimes you're just not going to get first because it's a really hard game. But if you're smart about who you kind of like take out as you're racing, you don't have to get first every single time, right?
You're reminding me of the rival mechanic. Does the rival, is he just the person that's one above you in rank every time?
I think so.
Something like
I'm pretty sure it's like whoever's like next on that you need to dethrone, right? And so that's actually something I didn't even realize when I was a kid. But I've been watching hella fucking YouTube videos on like how to get good at this game, because I always just played it in easy mode when I was a kid, right? And then I played a little bit on Switch Online recently, and then somebody like tuned into my stream and was like, "Hey, I want to join." So I gave him my friend code, and he just fucking smoked me in every single race. So now I'm trying to like actually get good so I can play against these randos online, but yeah,
if they find your Twitch stream, they're gonna smoke you. I get that.
Yeah, they're looking for somebody to kill.
Well, we could also mention that there was an expansion for F-Zero X using the 64 disc disk drive, the DD, which never came out in the United States. And again, I think just like you said, this was I think maybe even the first DD thing ever released was the F-Zero expansion, which I think, like you said, this is going to be a trend. These are all early games on platforms.
Yeah, huge missed opportunity for Nintendo not to port that version
to the NSO
to the NSO, because it adds more racers, it adds a ton of new courses, and then adds a track editor too, where you can make your own levels, right? And so so that was a huge missed opportunity that they didn't include that. I never expected that they would. I mean, it's never released in the States. It was just a Japanese DD expansion, but really hope that someday we get that added, but not holding my breath. Yeah.
Well, with lip service paid to that, then the next full release game was just a couple years later for the Game Boy Advance, 2001, Maximum Velocity. This is where I start. Like, I don't know much about.
I've never seen that
Game Boy Advance one.
Never.
Yeah. Like, there's a few of them for the Game Boy Advance, and I don't know much about them. David, do you know much about these GBA?
I mean, I owned Maximum Velocity. Yeah, I played that a decent amount. But it was. Here's my problem with Game Boy Advance racing games. And really, I'm talking about like the F-Zero Game Boy Advance games and the Mario Kart Game Boy Advance games. The Game Boy Advance, when it was pitched, was like, you've got a Super Nintendo in your hand, right? It was like, it can do Super Nintendo stuff. Like, up to that point, the Game Boy was like way less than the Super Nintendo was, right? So it was like home console quality shit in the palm of your hand, right? So they went back to a lot of their Super Nintendo kind of franchises and brought them back. So Maximum Velocity was a return to that kind of original F-Zero style of gameplay.
So it looked like the SNES version?
Yeah, it had Mode 7 equivalent graphics.
In 2001. That's wild.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was, which for the time was revolutionary, and it was like really fast, and it played well. But it was like, for me, it was like, it's hard for me to go back and play the original.
You had 3 years of F-Zero X
exactly
already.
Yeah. And so I appreciate that game. It's a lot of fun. It's better looking than the original F-Zero, obviously. It's released, 11 years later. Yeah. And so, but if you're looking for more like vanilla F-Zero gameplay, the Game Boy Advance games are where it's at. Yeah.
Well, what about next then? We'll move on to maybe WeSkillNow. Maybe this is your chance to shine, right?
Yeah. This is my baby right here.
We're moving into the GameCube era, where F-Zero GX came out in 2003. Also not one I'm familiar with. So
okay. Well, I mean, you just reading that name, it brings back the memories of this, deep voice narrator saying F-Zero GX. And I just love that. There's somehow there's some advertisement in the game somewhere for F-Zero AX as well. Right. I believe that's just like on some arcade cabinet, correct?
Yeah. So before we dive into GX too much, F-Zero GX and F-Zero AX were released alongside each other. And F-Zero AX was the arcade version of the game, and it had its own courses that I think you could unlock in GX if you played it enough. But it was basically, this was a weird time where Nintendo was working with like Bandai a good amount to produce some stuff for their, I think it was Bandai, it was Namco. And they were working with them to kind of they use this Triforce system, like you had mentioned there, Matt. And it was kind of this hardware that was built into the GameCube, and they used in these arcade machines. You could actually take your memory card from your GameCube and plug it into the arcade machine.
What?
In arcades, and unlock characters that you would race with, or your profile from the GameCube game and the arcade game. It was pretty revolutionary for the time.
Yeah, that Triforce system's weird because it's Namco, Sega, and Nintendo.
That's right.
And so it also ran F-Zero AX, Donkey Kong, Mario Kart GP 1 and 2, and then some Sega games like Virtual Striker. It's wild.
Okay, you just described carrying your memory card into an arcade.
Yeah.
And I cannot relate to that. I was never close to doing that at all. Is that bringing your memory card and then like putting 2 quarters into this arcade machine and playing a few races.
Yeah.
That's wild in my mind.
Oh, I did it. I loved it.
Okay.
I loved F-Zero AX. It was we had one at the local arcade by my home. I think it was the main event that we had that. And yeah, it was a ton of fucking fun. But yeah, I mean, GX and AX also had the amazing, I mean, there's so much to talk about this game, but
Yes.
you know, they were both developed by Amusement Vision, which is a Sega company. And so Nintendo actually like, and also people who know me will know that I'm a huge fan of Amusement Vision because they were also developers of Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2.
Monkey Ball.
And you know, the creator of which went on to create the Yakuza series and all that kind of stuff. So the games were in like really good hands and were definitely like good, like powerhouse to showing off what the GameCube was capable of.
Hopefully this is not all we talk about GX here. But David, you were talking about X. If I were to talk about GX here, I would say one of the really, really special things that set it apart for me was the custom video for every single character in the game. They have a full animation for everyone that shows a little bit of backstory. Some characters have multiple even, I believe.
Yeah.
This game has a custom ship builder. I don't know what they call it. Do they call them cars in that game? Ships?
Yeah, I don't. Floaties.
You can build an entire custom floaty to just like hit every stat that you want to hit.
Yeah.
That's a special game. I love it.
Yeah. They don't make games like that anymore, to be honest.
You're so right.
It was so dense. And you're right. It had full motion video with voice acting. And all the shit. It had a story mode. This is the first F-Zero game to ever have a story mode.
Let's pause for lore. Pause for lore.
Oh, you're so right. There's so much lore in those videos.
I can only set it up. So I'll set it up, and then if you want to dunk it, feel free. So there was a big accident in F-Zero X, and we got F-Zero GX.
Yeah.
What?
Maybe. I don't know.
Wait, how does that work? Is there like a cutscene of an accident or something?
Yeah, at least in some of the manuals, as Patrick was alluding to, a lot of this story and the connection happened in other media. That you learn about it outside of the actual GX story about how GX came to be, because it's not X, but it's now GX, and it's now AX, which are two in this universe is 2 different races. They're all F-Zero races, but they're different.
But Captain
Grand
Falcon's
Prix
is
or
both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all the characters did both.
But all the characters are in both.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it really reminds me, and I was thinking about this the other day when I was streaming this game, was streaming F-Zero X rather, it really reminds me so much of like episode 1, like the pod race scene, right? Where it's like everybody comes from these different places and it's like super deadly, and everybody gets off on the fact on like how deadly and like potentially you could just watch a life-ending crash or whatever. Like that's so much of the world that these games are set in. And F-Zero X like predates Phantom Menace, right?
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah. I feel like it was a big inspiration for that scene, to be honest.
And then you would realize that like 6 of those floaties, as we call them, look exactly like the pod racers as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
exactly like them.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, the story mode was incredible in GX. It was tremendously difficult. Like F-Zero GX,
I never beat it.
Yeah, I never beat it either.
We're talking about like 12-year-old Brian, like trying multiple times and like, taking a few month break, coming back, still can't do it. On easy mode.
What made it so hard? Just like the CPU?
Yeah, and it's unforgiving. And story mode had a lot of like challenges that you had to do as well.
There
it's
are
like
special objectives to get through.
Yeah, and it's just like super unforgiving, right? And so it's just like, it's hoping that you're going to like learn these mechanics that they're slowly doling out. And if you don't pick up on what they're putting down, there's no like wiggle room there.
Man,
you know what I mean?
I just have to illustrate this further, okay? I think I beat mission 1 on easy mode, and it is a standard race. You are Captain Falcon. You're on the standard oval track, and you just beat it in a certain amount of time. Yeah. I'm almost positive mission 2 is against Samurai Goro? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
In the Fire Stingray, okay? It's a 1v1 race. I never beat that one. It's mission 2.
Yeah. It's fucking hard.
And I tried so many times.
I streamed it like I don't know, like 9 months ago or something, and I was just like playing that one mission over and over again. And I was like, all right,
you know,
well,
the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's super
and it's
hard.
like you don't even get to the end of the race. It's usually you get crushed by a boulder before you get there, right?
yeah.
The
It's a very intense game.
In general have high difficulty, and I think some of it is just like requires memorization, right? Like some of these tracks have just ridiculously
I think it requires
sharp. Well, yeah, probably that, but like ridiculously sharp turns where the only way, you know, at the higher level you're going to be able to beat these is to know that and to have died on it many times, right? Like,
yeah, it's very much like a game that, well, and it's I feel like it's gets away with that because it is so fast paced. You know, it's not like a game. It's not one of these games where you're like, oh, great, I got to this point and now I died. And yes, I know what to do now, but I'm going to have to fucking make my way all the way back up. Like the game moves at like 1,000,000 miles a second. And even on the GameCube, this game, the graphics were incredible for its age. It still holds up to this day. It looks like it's a game that just came out. And it, like
I do have to point out one scene.
Oh, please. What is it?
There is some dinosaur character, I do not know his name, but in his animation, he goes to the bar, he gets a drink, and when he puts this mug up to his mouth, maybe you can put this in the episode, but the bubbles coming out of this, the liquid animation wasn't there, and it makes me laugh every time.
I'm not talking about the full motion videos. Like that shit does not age very well. Like if they ported this game now, they would have to like AI upscale that shit, right? Like it wouldn't look great. But it's like, because I'm sure they lost all those files. But like, but I'm just talking like within the gameplay, right? Like if you play this game in like Dolphin or you upscale it to 1080, this game looks like it came out yesterday, man. You know, like and it's so smooth and it's so fast and it's like to a point where like a lot of other games like have failed to even like reach that level, right? But I think because it's so fast, when you do fail, you're like, okay, great. It's just going to take me 20 seconds to get back to where I was before because I'm going at 1,000 kilometers an hour. And that's on the low end, right? So, yeah, super great game. GX is often cited as the best game in the series.
Hey,
and
I'll
I think,
take that.
I think it technically is. I have a soft spot for just F-Zero X because it was such a big part of my childhood. But yeah, GX, if that game was re-released today, I'd buy that for $60 for sure.
Well, to move on, there was another, actually, more than one Game Boy Advance game beyond this, one of which only came out in Japan, but there was F-Zero GP Legend, another game I don't really know anything about. Are you familiar with that one at all, David?
Yeah, I played it. I think I played that one later through like an emulator. I don't think I ever owned that game. But it's just more of the same from Maximum Velocity. Yeah, it has a lot better controls. It feels a lot better to play. It's a lot more like fast paced, and it brought in some more stuff from the 3D games as well. You know, it's it came out, I guess, around the same time as GX and AX, right? So it brought in like some elements from that, but it's still very much in that old school style. Yeah.
And I understand it's based on an anime, a Japanese cartoon that existed around the same time as GX and AX as well. I think
that's right. I think Climax is as well, or at least they bring story elements in from the anime into at least one of those games. But yeah, the anime, by the way, is fucking tight.
Really?
Yeah. I've only watched really clips from it. It was never like localized in the US.
I was reading that apparently it was like somebody got the rights to it and they put out like 10 episodes and then canceled it or something.
Right. Like yeah. It never got finished. Right. Yeah. But if you ever want to just get hyped as fuck and want to know the way that Smash has popularized at least the character of Captain Falcon, is watch this moment of Captain Falcon punching somebody in the anime. He does this like giant powered up Falcon, and it's the hypest shit I've ever seen. It's like 45 seconds of a guy getting punched in the face and then like flying off into the distance in a huge explosion. It's fucking cool. Awesome. Yeah. But yeah, those were kind of like tied to the anime, right? And that's why F-Zero Climax, which was the last F-Zero game released, was a Japanese only Game Boy Advance release.
Yeah, and that was in 2004. So, you know, we're now looking at almost 20 years since the last F-Zero game.
The clues are all there. They They released Climax. Why would they release anything else?
That was the climax.
It's the climax. You're right.
Well, I mean, we kind of covered a lot about the gameplay and the story and the art and all that, but maybe we should talk about what you just kind of talked about, which is Captain Falcon and Smash, because I feel like that's the legacy of F-Zero in some ways, or like the biggest like people know who Captain Falcon is, and they may not even know what F-Zero is. And that's why I think, even though all joking aside, I do think a game where you play as Captain Falcon in part and race as him, I think would bridge the gap. Like, you know, where maybe that's dumb and maybe it would isolate both audiences.
I resent it, but you're right, Patrick.
Like if you could Falcon Punch and then race, I think that would be pretty cool.
You do need it.
I want it. I don't think we're ever going to get it, but that's what I want to see.
Hey, if Captain Falcon can get out of the car to fight in the Smash tournament, he can get out of the car and do other things.
Bake a cake for example.
We'll see it
do
all.
his taxes.
Yeah, Captain Falcon does taxes.
No, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that most, you know, especially if you're born after a certain time, you know, if you're born in the 2000s, like you just think he's a Smash character, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just the franchise has been completely abandoned by Nintendo, right? And in such a way that like really a developer like Sakurai, who has such reverence for the video games as an art form, is like one of the only people that's really like championing this franchise. And like, you know, if it weren't for the Captain Falcon stages in Super Smash Brothers, you wouldn't even know he's from a racing game, right?
Well, let's talk about why Nintendo's not doing it, or what they might do. I don't know. Like, I feel like the quote that I wish I could find this quote. I should have done this, but there was some sort of quote, and you hear this whenever F-Zero comes up officially, where they're like, "Well, only if we have a new idea," or something like that. Something to that effect is what the phrasing is. And it doesn't really seem fair, because that's not true for any other franchise, right? Like Mario's Mario, F-Zero's F-Zero. You know what I mean? Like maybe they add little things, and there's. Here, I just pitched one, right? Like there's always new ideas. Like it seems like they don't want to do it. And I think you said it, David. I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's just not successful enough, right? Like,
I'll combat you right there, Patrick.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the example you just brought up was Mario.
Yeah.
I think Mario is pretty dramatically different in every installment.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, like at its core,
Right.
Maybe this is mincing words or like what have you, and I may even be thinking more of 2D Mario than like 3D Mario, because I would definitely agree that 3D
like the
Mario,
new 2D stuff,
I guess,
which is the exact same every time.
Which admittedly at this point we haven't had in a while, maybe because they don't have a new idea, so maybe I'm countering myself.
Wait, who's arguing with who here?
Yeah.
I think I just took Patrick and turned him around.
But I guess when I think of like something like 2D Mario more than 3D.
Right.
Sure. Yes, I do think you're right there. Or Mario Party or Pokemon or whatever. Like I don't think the idea that something has to have a new idea to put out a new game, but they think that for F-Zero, maybe because it doesn't so well. Maybe that's the reason.
I mean, that's what it is, right? I think it comes down to sales. And I think, and this is kind of a bit of the toxic nature of Nintendo's history of innovation, right? Like Nintendo is one of the most innovative companies of all time. They've been around since the fucking 1800s, and they're constantly innovating. That's why they've been around. They've been around for over 100 years, because they're always innovating and pushing the envelope, right? And so now, and that's great, but it also leads to issues, I think. And I mean, look to Star Fox for this, right? You know, I feel like they felt the same way with the Star Fox franchise that they felt about F-Zero, and they released Star Fox Zero, right, on the Wii U. And it's like, that's a game that they basically just retold the story of Star Fox for the umpteenth time, but they're like, okay, we need to give it a gimmick, right? We need to have it be like you're aiming with the Wii U pad and you're looking at that and the TV shows something different, right? And then they're like, well, that didn't sell, so I guess Star Fox is just dead. And it's like, well, no, maybe just people didn't want to do that thing, right? It's like, yeah, Mario is going to sell when they do when you've now got a cap that you throw, right?
Mhm.
Or he's got a water jetpack or whatever, right? Like, because the core is still there, right? But it's also because Mario is a fucking household name. Everybody in the world knows who Mario is, whether or not they even know what video games are or not. If you showed a picture of Mario to anybody, they'd be like, that's Mario, right? So it's going to sell regardless. These niche games, I think it's a problem to try to innovate them in order to boost sales. I think that they should take the opportunity when they're on top of the world, like they are now with the Switch, where they have this massive fucking install base, to like get some of that stuff back up and going. That's what they did with Metroid Dread, right? They didn't really change up the stuff too much there. That was a very classic Metroid game. And it's probably going to be the highest selling Metroid game ever, just because the number of units of Switches are out there, right?
And to piggyback on that, that's one of the examples I wanted to bring up, which is like, you'll sometimes hear F-Zero is too grown up or too difficult, but Metroid is grown up and difficult, and Metroid Dread checks both of those boxes. There's I know people who are like, I couldn't even get out of the first area because I couldn't figure it out or whatever. David
Jaffe.
And so on. And I think, and there's aliens with their, being operated on in the background and stuff like that. Like, it's very gore. I mean, it's not that gory, but
it's pretty body horror.
Yeah, there's a bit of body
based
horror.
on Alien, right? Yeah.
So I think that those arguments don't really hold water for me for the same reason. But I don't know.
I think in Nintendo's mind, Dread did innovate in a big way.
Yeah, that might be true.
How so? How would you categorize
Even
that?
though when we look at it as a big picture, it just is a Metroid game. I think that, what are the aliens called? The Emmys. I think those are incredibly unique and bring this entire sense of horror to it that does feel very unique when you're in the production phase.
Yeah. And you're not wrong, right? But I don't know. I just think,
but then big picture, it's like, it is just a Metroid game.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
And I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could add. I don't know. I just don't want them to like release. I just don't want them to make something that is so fundamentally different that you're going to alienate the
that would
the
be a
one
tragedy.
User base that you have, as sparse as it might be, right? Like, because Nintendo's a business at the end of the day, man. Mm-hmm. I understand if you've got a franchise and you're getting diminishing returns every time you put out a game. Yeah. I understand the urge to not spend resources on making that game franchise anymore, right? But it's also been so long that I feel like they would be surprised if they put out a new game at this point.
I do think ultimately at the end of the day, Nintendo does have like the dollars to put into market research that has determined that F-Zero would lose the money.
Yeah,
I just think that's true. But the big win that I do want after this conversation, I don't even know if I wanted it before this conversation, but I just want to see Captain Falcon's car driving by with like really shiny metal on it, and that would be good for me. With those Switch graphics. Well, no. Again, with the Switch graphics. Yeah. I need that shiny metal in my life really bad.
Yeah.
To give David a pitch for a game that he'll actually like, though, I just would love to see an F-Zero game where you go online and you play against like 30 to 100 people, right?
Yeah.
Like where it's real time
battle royale,
like a battle.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what the game is, and that's what it feels like it would be.
Wow.
So F-Zero X kind of created the battle royale. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It wasn't multiplayer.
You're making a claim now.
Well, no, I mean, just look at it. I mean, so in F-Zero X, there's a mode called Death Race, which is basically the whole thing is just one. It's like basically a straight line, right? But it loops up like this, right? And you're going along it, so you go upside down. Very much Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the anti-grav stuff, right? But it's just a straight line. And there's 30 other characters, and the point is to murder every other person on the stage other than yourself and beat it in the fastest amount of time, right? So it's like, if that was online, that would be amazing, right? And like, that could even just be a mode, right? But that would be such a popular mode, I think, for people to play online. Because it was super fun. Everybody loves Death Race. And it's so bare bones. It's just one track that you do that on. It's only single player in F-Zero X. But it's like one of the things that people talk about most when they talk about F-Zero X, right?
Okay.
So yeah, stuff like that.
Didn't they put the online in F-Zero X for this mode? Sorry.
Not for Death Race.
They did not?
Basically,
Okay.
it's got the same thing as all the other Nintendo Switch Online games, where it's basically like it's just emulating.
Oh,
it's
right.
emulating single screen, like you've got a
Yep.
bunch of friends over and you're whatever, right? But you're online, right? Which is why the online kind of sucks, because if one person has a bad connection, everybody has a bad time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's all like 1-to-1. Yeah. But anyway, you're right, Patrick. I think that's a good angle for them to. I think that it's not. You don't reinvent the wheel. You don't change it up. You don't make a Star Fox Zero out of this, but rather you push the kind of side modes and the stuff that makes it unique, right? I think that's a really good angle to approach that.
Yeah, I love that, Patrick. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably wrap this up, but there are some games, Nintendo hasn't put out a new F-Zero, but there's a bunch of other indie developers that have, taken the time to fill that gap. Are there, David, you might be the best person to kind of mention, do you have any favorites like that? I mean, the ones I'm aware of, I haven't really spent a lot of time playing them. The one I always hear about is Fast RMX. Is that a decent game, or are these all just kind of like
Fast RMX is great. Really enjoy that game quite a bit. It's made by Shinen, who have also been their history. They've been developing for Nintendo consoles since like the Game Boy Advance, or maybe even before that. And they've always pushed the boundaries of Nintendo hardware, right? Like they were doing first-person shooters on the fucking DS. They did 3D shooters on the Game Boy Advance and shit like that. Fast Racing Neo, I think it was originally called, or maybe just Fast, was originally a WiiWare game for the Wii. And it was basically an F-Zero style game that was, this whole game was released in like, 250 megs or 50 megs or whatever the limit was on WiiWare games. It was really small, right? They were able to pack like so much into this game. So Fast RMX is on the Switch. It was actually one of the launch titles on the Switch for the eShop. And it's like kind of a remix of the original Wii Fast game and the Wii U game that they did as well. And that game, it's not the same as F-Zero to me, and it's got its own kind of unique mechanics that they bring to it. They kind of have their own little gimmick that they do with kind of you can swap colors. It's between like orange and blue, and then there are orange and blue boost pads on the ground.
Okay.
So if you're in the right color mode, then
it almost turns into a rhythm game at that point.
In a way, yeah.
Sure.
And it's very fun. I played it a lot on the Switch. Cool. I really enjoy it. If you want to, if Nintendo themselves don't want to make a F-Zero game, give it to Shinen. They get it, right? Like they understand it. So yeah, I'd say Fast RMX is a great one to check out if you've played F-Zero X and you want more games like that. And then I also want to give a shout out to Aero GPX, which is it's currently in development right now. You can follow this guy. His name's Aaron, I believe, on Twitter. I follow him all the time because I just eat up morsels of footage of this game that he's developing right now. But it's very much a F-Zero X love letter, done in that kind of same visual style. Very much in that way. If Nintendo's looking to give it to somebody, this is somebody who really has love for the franchise. And it's kind of, we hear all the time indie creators like making, that's what like Undertale is, right? Like there wasn't a mother game for forever, so Toby Fox made Undertale, right? This is that for F-Zero. And it looks like a blast. It's still in development right now. I'd love to get him on the show as well whenever that game is closer to release. But yeah, check out Aero GPX.
I did see all of these titles before we started recording. I looked at a couple of trailers. Honestly, to me, it was indistinguishable from F-Zero. But they were gorgeous. And the only thing that was missing was, the classic, the blue, the pink, the yellow, the green car,
The doctors.
Yeah, the guy doing surgery and bounty hunting. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion on F-Zero, unless somebody wants to throw something in real quickly.
I would love to see a new F-Zero game. It'd be great. I know we talked about this just a little bit. I would love to revisit this franchise in any form. I think, as we were talking about it, this is going back just a little bit. What if it was a Captain Falcon game?
Nice.
Yeah, that just gives you that.
I bet that would sell more with that title.
Yeah.
Just using the like brand recognition of Captain Falcon as opposed to F-Zero.
Like F-Zero Captain Falcon or Captain Falcon F-Zero.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what? Fuck it. Just put Captain Falcon in a Formula One car set on Earth. And it's like him and Senna just like racing each other. Rest in peace, Senna.
One second. I have no
Please.
idea. I wanted to bring this character up somehow, but I have no idea how. But do you
Go
guys
for it.
remember Bull
Bull from F-Zero?
from F-Zero?
Which
Is he-
game?
The
Which
car
color
he
is his
drives.
car?
Yeah. It's the black one, right?
It's
like
called Black Bull, and
Yeah.
his name is Bull.
he's kind of
and
like the bad guy.
He's
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Well, he's
yeah.
kind of like the mini bad guy.
right.
Who then there's like this master hand above him who
Yeah.
honestly looks like Zurg from Toy Story.
Black Shadow. I'm looking at a picture of him right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, is his name Black Shadow? Okay.
Yeah. His car is the Black Bull.
And
Right,
his
right,
drives Black Bull. There you go.
Yeah. No,
So-
he's cool. He's got the heaviest car in F-Zero X.
Okay,
and
yeah.
weight actually plays a lot into the
And
mechanics.
there's just something inspirational about his design. Other than that, it's just Batman.
Yeah. He's in
That
I
has-
think he's in the opening cinematic of F-Zero GX, right?
Oh,
I'm-
well, I don't recall that. He
Yeah,
might be.
yeah.
I do recall he like rips Blood Falcon out of Falcon's chest in that
Yeah.
game, though.
Yeah.
Oh man, just so many inspirational moments.
Yeah.
in GX, I love.
Definitely, if nothing else, if you don't want to, if you're like, all right, David, you haven't convinced me that racing games are for me still, even after we've been gushing about F-Zero for this entire episode. If nothing else, go watch the fucking cinematics from F-Zero GX, man. They're like
Please.
so campy and so silly and so good and like really well designed, I think,
Yes.
even when they're bad. Like,
And the mission
they're-
ones are so story driven. Like
Yeah.
they're cinematic. There are other jokey ones, but like, oof, yeah, the story
Yeah.
ones.
I'd
Please.
love to see another F-Zero anime as well. I think it's just so many great characters they've created in such an interesting world that just hasn't had enough play, you know?
Well, I think we did it. We talked about F-Zero finally.
Great. We don't have to ever talk about it on this podcast again.
Done. Check the box. So yeah, if you have any thoughts on F-Zero, anything we didn't mention or anything you want to highlight, then
Or
please,
any lore facts.
yeah.
I would love to talk about the lore.
Then please reach out to us and let us know, and we'll mention it next episode. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the games that we've been playing recently. All right, this past week, I've been sick and not playing too much games, but I have been playing the most popular F-Zero game, also known as Smash, a lot.
Did you try out F-Zero X, Patrick?
Oh, I did. I love F-Zero X. Like,
Okay, yeah.
like I want to play more of it and get better too, and play online with you because
Yeah, let's
it really,
play online.
It really is super fun. I think it's so much better than the Super Nintendo F-Zero. I mean, like, which I have a lot more nostalgia for, but like,
Right.
I love the actual, like, the 3D elements and stuff are so great.
Hell yeah. I've hijacked the games we're playing segment and turned it into more F-Zero
More
segment.
F-Zero, you did it. So I have been playing that, but the one thing I thought I would mention here is it went on sale on the Nintendo eShop, so I picked it up, the Baldur's Gate enhanced editions, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and part of the reason I played this in addition, or have been playing it, is as some folks know, I do game writing, and I bought this book, which I am showing on screen. It's a Baldur's Gate a book by one of the guys that wrote for the game about writing for the game, and
I got
and
one
all
of those
that.
for Spelunky.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
I bought this a long time ago when I was like buying up books about game writing because it was recommended, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to read this without also kind of companion playing the game.
Right.
So when this game went on sale, I was like, this is the time. So I've been playing some Baldur's Gate 2, which, you know, it's a challenging experience, but I have a little bit of D&D experience. So it's been a while, so I'm digging back into that. Enjoying it so far, but I'll probably, you know, dabble in it while I read the book and then see how I feel. Probably.
Very good.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
I'll go next. I got two things. The first thing is video game related. South by Southwest in Austin. Did you all see this drone advertisement for the Halo show on Paramount?
Yeah. They used a bunch of drones to make a QR code in the air, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a bunch of like hundreds of drones. This is my deepest fear of ads everywhere. Now
did it.
is reality. It's cool tech, but fuck, it scares the shit out of me. it shows the Halo logo. There's a little bit of music, and it showed the Paramount logo, and then went to a QR code, and it takes you, if you scan it, it takes you to like a Halo website.
Ads in the sky.
Ads, yeah, in the sky, not just on the
Like
side
a
of the highway.
flat says hi. Take a look. Sorry. Anyway.
I thought it was a interesting idea. What we probably will see more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Noodle on that. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Yeah.
The second
I'm
thing,
against it.
yeah, in the comments,
Also,
David.
Also, real quick. Okay, real quick. Let me just hijack this again. Not for
F-Zero?
F-Zero. No. Also, I was walking downtown. There's way too many NFT things this South by Southwest.
It's all NFTs.
It's all NFT stuff.
How do they present themselves? Where do you see them?
There's just like a whole area, and it's like, here's like a fuzzy fuckers booth or whatever, and you can like.
Are they like printed out big posters?
Yeah. And it's like, hey, come here, we'll give you free drinks. While you look at our fuzzy fuckers, and it's like, what? Anyway, sorry.
That's wild.
It's a terrible thing that's happening in our world. Yeah, sorry. Continue, Matt.
How do I come back from that? I don't know.
Well, he'll cut that out.
What games have you been playing?
I am the editor.
I also been playing. Put more time into Horizon Forbidden West. I'm past the first world, and the world has significantly opened up. So I am enjoying it way more. I think that first couple hours was like such a slog because I wanted to explore more.
Right.
But after one of a major cutscene that happens, the world opens up. You can visit like where old Las Vegas used to be. There's some really cool like old museums which give you some of the more lore stuff, more of the history of what happened in the battles on planet Earth in that game. And I am enjoying it because finally I'm in this world that's much larger than I am. I can explore a little bit more, and I'm also encountering large monsters which I can't beat. Or get overwhelmed and I almost die. Like testing my limits. So I'm liking it so far. It is probably in my top 10 open world games so far.
Wow. Yeah.
Not bad.
It was in IGN's top 10 open world games.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, they had
that.
that. Yeah, it is. It's a very pretty game. There with incredible voice acting too.
Well,
Cool.
just real quick for Forbidden West, is it like real time action, or I kind of thought it was like turn based?
That's real time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, hunting, if you like those dinosaurs dropping from that portal in that trailer, you probably like this game too.
Yeah. Slap some mechs on some.
It's a little different feel.
Yeah. That's good. David, how about you?
Yeah, I really haven't been playing anything new. I've been playing like so much Picross for some reason. I'm just like trying to beat Picross S7. I actually really I've been trying to reach out to DCD for this for a while because I know DCD plays a shit ton of Picross in our Discord, and he's also a friend of the show. DCD, he's been on the show a few times. I really would like to do a Picross race with him. That's something I'm thinking about, like maybe trying to set up on.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. It's like we start a new file and then pick like 3 or 4 puzzles that we have to beat, and the first person to beat them like actually wins or whatever. I'd love to do that. So DC, if you're listening, hit me up.
You need a clever name like Crisscross Picross.
That's it right there. We're already good. We'll just listen to Crisscross the whole time.
Yeah.
Get fucking banned from Twitch because I'm playing.
Picross will make you jump.
Yeah, exactly. Backwards pants. Anyway, and then other than that, I've been playing some normal shit. Obviously, been playing a shit ton of F-Zero X. I actually been playing a lot more than I've expected to. I expected to be like, oh yeah, I love this game from my childhood, but I'm like really delving into it. And like I said, I've been watching like videos on strategies and all this shit. Like I don't think I ever really truly understood how to drift when I was a kid. I like used the kind of like hold R when you're turning right and it'll kind of like help you whatever. But if you like hold Z while you're turning right, you lose your grip, which then gives you you like go into this like drift. And then if you boost your acceleration stat, then while you're drifting and you're not properly gripped, you're constantly accelerating through that.
Man.
So you go faster.
I want to do some
faster,
racing
faster.
now.
Yeah, I know. We got to do it. But anyway, so little stuff like that. I'm getting a lot better at the game, especially after getting trounced by that rando on Twitch. And then I did just lastly, I had played some co-op Binding of Isaac the other day with Robert, my buddy Robert, and that was a ton of fun. That game co-op is so much fun. I wish it was online, but it's great to play with him in person. And then I'm almost done playing Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty on Twitch. I've been streaming that recently. I think I got to like what I think is the last boss, and then I tried to do it. This was last night when I was streaming, which was Sunday, and I tried to beat the boss like 4 or 5 times, and I was just like banging my head against the wall. But that's, I think, because I'd spent the day like day drinking and got like kind of pretty badly sunburned. It was just like, okay, this is the end of the stream. I'm just gonna hold off on this. And so this upcoming Wednesday, the day this episode comes out, I'm probably gonna beat the game on stream. So tune in for that. I've been having a fucking blast with it. So many twists and turns, so many reveals. It's my first time playing the game. I'm loving it. And I can't wait to play Snake Eater after this as well. So tune in on twitch.tv/monolithfiji to watch the epic conclusion of that game.
Metal Gear's got the best lore.
Yeah, it was blowing my mind. Yeah, so I love it. Brian, WeSkillNow. What have you been playing, man?
Yes, let me tell you. So I think the breadth of my gaming honestly came from my childhood. But if you were to ask me this question, like, what's the prompt right now? What are you playing?
Yeah.
I think my answer has been the same for like the last decade, because I am just playing Smash Bros. Melee a lot and old school RuneScape.
Very good. Yeah,
the entire
RuneScape,
right? I am, dude.
Yeah, very cool. I think I should have said this. Streams on that.
That's right. Yeah. I should have said this as my introduction. I kind of serve 2 communities, and one is the forum in which you found me. That's the Mario community through editing Grand Pooh Bear's content. I also have my own content, which is old school RuneScape based.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll lead with that next time. Yeah. Very cool.
All good. I am known in the community, I can proudly say this, as the leagues guy. I can't like give you this half-hour explanation, but they just did this time-gated event where players had 2 months to race as far as they could in the game. And, you know, based on your percentage and where you fell, you got rewards based on that. So I got like top 3%, and I stopped playing like a week ago. It's ending in like 2 days, and I got burned. It's done.
Yeah. Very good.
Awesome. Well, I think that does it then. WeSkillNow, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Talking to us. We really appreciate it. And also thank you to milkyway.co, who does our website. And thank you to Corduroy, who does our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick Online, I am PDYX or PDYX123 on Twitch.
Hey, I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much ever on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, WeSkillNow? Where can people find you online?
I have been pretty consistent. I am at WeSkillNow on Twitter, WeSkillNow on Twitch. That's probably all that matters.
Very good. Very good. Easy enough to find. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the episode. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We got a website, switchheadz.com. And then, of course, make sure you join our Discord server, which you just joined the other day, Brian. That was really cool.
No, maybe that was today.
Yeah, fun. It's good to see you on there. We have lots of conversations on there, and our Facebook group as well, both of which are bustling communities. We'd love to see you in either of those. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you listening to this episode on F-Zero. We finally did it, and I'm glad that Nintendo at least has acknowledged that this franchise exists with releasing this game on the NSO, and I can't wait to play more as soon as we finish recording tonight. We're going to be back next week with another episode. It's going to be a great episode, folks. Not going to tell you what it's about, but it might also have something to do with racing. That's going to do it. We love you guys very much. Stay safe out there. Wash your hands. Get the booster shot if you haven't gotten it yet. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. We love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.